Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. Most business owners have come across this situation being time poor, often working up to 70, 80 hours a week and stuck in every decision, missing out on some of those really important moments that matter, those moments that you can't go back and recapture. So in this episode, we're going to show you how you can reclaim 10 to 20 hours a week without slowing growth, so your business and your family both win. So we're going to unpack some practical systems, some practical operating steps for owners. We're going to look at what we call, or what our guest calls, the 10K hour filter to decide what you should actually do, the outcomes you should delegate, and the tasks that you need to do or the methods you need to implement to get rid of some of those bottlenecks in your business. We're also going to look at how this idea of a 2-week vacation test can really work to prove how your business can run without you. In addition to that, we're going to look at a few of the AI plays that are going to save you hours without adding to your headcount. And look, I'm looking forward to this because as a dad, a father of 4, and a business owner, these are some of the struggles that I have as well, and I know I'm not alone out there. So we're going to dive into it. Welcome back. I'm Paul Sweeney, and today I'm being joined by George Rivera. He's a father, owner, business owner. He's been helping business owners generate 7, 8, 9-figure businesses, but also helping them buy back 10 to 20 hours a week and scale profits at the same time without being the bottleneck in their business. So after grinding through 80-hour weeks across multiple businesses, George has rebuilt his business around one promise from his dad. And we're going to probably hear a bit more about that. But that promise, don't miss Leo's games. And I think as an owner, as a dad, many of us will identify with that feeling, that promise that's made. Look, the result, it talks for itself. We've got the father first owner operating system built on those levers, people owning the outcomes, systems creating consistency, and using AI to help multiply those efficiencies. George is going to share some of those scripts, frameworks, and we're going to talk into where you can find out more. But let's not waste any more time. George, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business podcast.
Thank you, Paul. Excited to be here.
Look, I'm excited because I love this, because there's always that dilemma as a parent and a business owner about where you should be spending your time and why when you're spending time with the family, you're missing out on the business, or the business might be suffering, but when you're spending time on the business, the family life is suffering at the same time, or you're missing those key moments, which, as we said, you can't replace. What was the catalyst for you in changing from working like 70, 80 hours a week to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a good question and very deep. And I'd have to go kind of back to the beginning where this whole thing started. And it goes back to like the late 80s, early 90s. So back to my middle school and high school days. And here in the States, middle school 6 through 8, and then high school's 9 through 12. So all those years combined, 6 years, I played in about 40 games. I played basketball and I was pretty good at it. Not amazing, but good enough to warrant, my dad coming to watch me play. And out of those 40 games, he only made it to one game, out of those 40. And I always felt like, man, what's wrong? Is like his work, more important than me. Like, and I'm young. Like, I don't know how to, go through this stuff and calculate this in my head. And, so like I would score a basket and, that's when your parents and especially your dad should be cheering you on. And I look at the stands and it's like the empty stands. Nobody's there cheering me on. And then my teammates, they'd score and their dads are there cheering them on. Oh, you go. And, here's a cup of water, pat on the back, high five. And I remember looking at another dad just saying, I wish he was my dad. And that would have crushed my dad to hear that at any point, because he was a good man. He was a medical doctor, very successful, one of the top in our area. Always had nice homes, nice cars. We always had our summer trips to Europe. I always had the coolest toys. That was part of my identity. Is you get to hang out with George, you get to hang out with my toys too, because that was just part of who I was and what I brought to the table. And but at that moment, none of that material stuff mattered. It was all about my dad's not here right now. I need him, and now this guy's here with his dad. I want him to be my dad. And so that was like the first time that I ever kind of felt that almost like an abandonment thing. Again, I'm young. I didn't know what I was thinking. I think the one thing that I remember thinking was I'm loaning my dad out to the world to make it a better place. I don't know, my best way to cope. And then fast forward 20 years. This is 2015 now. This is 10 years ago, essentially, this month. And he is he's starting his 40th year in practice. Actually, earlier in the year, he started his 40th year in practice, and he's thinking he's gearing up for the last third of his life. You know, he's 67. His parents, my grandparents, just passed away in a couple years prior in their mid 90s, and they're full of health and just like mind is all there, sharp and active. And I'm like, sign me up for that. That's a good run. And so he's thinking that's the run that he's got. And then he got diagnosed early in that year with cancer. He had 6 to 9 months to live. And so he came over to my house to meet my newborn son at the time, and I didn't know it, but he was going to tell me after he met my son that he's got cancer and he's going to pass away soon. Anyway, it was a very like interesting 9 months to say the least. And we got really close, and just closure on a lot of things. And at this point is closer to November, which is now literally like 10 years from this month. And a couple of weeks before he passed away, and he told me those words: "Don't miss Leo's games. I miss too many of yours." And Leo's my son, who's at the time he's 10 months old, and I'm already blowing it with my son. Like, he's already kind of starting to move around. A lot of firsts, he's trying to communicate, trying to walk, and I'm just like hardly even there because I'm just like working so much. And so when my dad told me that statement, it hit me in a couple of ways. First, it was like, oh my goodness, he acknowledged that feeling that I had when I was in middle school, high school, of like, me wondering where the heck he is and why isn't he here, and him apologizing for that, or kind of lamenting that, sort of brought some sweet closure to that. I thought I'd suppress that feeling to never visit it again, but it just like bubbled up. I can't explain it. But then the other side of it was like, oh my goodness, I'm my dad all over again. I'm working. I'm out of the house all day long. I'm giving him great homes and cars and a great lifestyle, and we're going to Europe just like I did when I was a kid. And had you seen me and talked to my dad a couple years prior, I would have been high-fiving my dad. Dad, you showed me how to be a man. You showed me it takes work. Don't worry about the family. Like, they'll be good as long as we're doing our part, bringing home the bacon, is a thing we say here in the States. We love bacon here. And so fast forward 3 years from that, my dad passes away, and he instilled in me this desire of wanting to be present for my family, because I remember how it was being a kid and your dad's not there. I'm like, I can't repeat that. And so fast forward 3 years, my business scales essentially to my best year at the time, to $20 million that year. It's an online supplement company. And I mean, the thing is printing money. It's like never before, but life is miserable. And I sent off this email to a dear friend and a mentor. He actually was in Rome at the time, so that's why it was an email. I'm like, hit me up when you get back next week to the States. I know you're with your family, but here you go. And I just wrote him, there's some days that I hate this business. And I don't use the word hate often unless there's like this visceral feeling behind it. And I was like, but hit me back when you get back home. And then I'm like, okay, back to work. I vented. I feel like I'm ready for another 12-hour run till I just collapse on my computer to be dragged to bed. And he called me like 20 minutes later, and I'm like, hey, I thought you were out in Europe. He's like, yeah, we're still here, but I saw your email and we have to talk. That was like an SOS, like a cry for help. And I'm just like, okay. And we ended up talking for a couple of hours. But to boil down the point of that, or I guess the outcome of that conversation, was essentially, you need to quit doing the stuff that you don't like to do and only do the stuff that you like to do. Because again, I'm doing $20 million that year, printing money, but I'm the bottleneck for everything. Imagine if you could see me here and then 40 people beneath me on one row, like no organizational structure. I had the worst org chart in human history. And so I'm hiring different people for different problems. And when they can't accomplish the task, I'm getting upset. It just comes back to me, and it's just bogging my time down. And I'm a marketer. I write sales copy. I create funnels. I do the fun side of online marketing, which is the make money, the revenue optimization, recurring revenue, all that fun stuff. The admin stuff I do not like to do. I'm okay at it, but the same brain shouldn't be doing both things. And so the outcome of that call was to stop doing what you don't like to do and what you shouldn't do, and only focus on the higher level stuff that actually move the needle in the business that brings in revenue. I'm like, okay, 23 years in business and I'm finally figuring this out now. Wow, at least better late than never. And then that phone call became the foundation for the blueprint of what I'm talking now. And it took about a year and a half to really get into the transformation, because us entrepreneurs, or let me speak for myself, can be very stubborn to give up certain things. It's like nobody can do it like me. And I have some we call it PTSD from past mistakes. Like I've lost, $300,000 in making certain mistakes, or I didn't validate an invoice. And when you're doing a lot of volume, these invoices are big, so you need to validate them. And I didn't have time to validate them. And so, a lot of critical things that I guess you call them leaky buckets, where just money's just flowing out the other end and there's no control of it. And so anyway, it took a while, but full transformation came in the year 2021, scaled the business to $50 million. But now I'm working no more than 30 hours a week, and I'm actually living a semi-retired lifestyle. I'm hardly working at all. Emergencies still happen, fires still happen, but somebody else puts them out, because it's the frameworks that we put in place that handle everything. And me, I bought my time back so that I'm with my family. I'm connected with my wife. One thing I didn't mention is that my dad, the way that he worked so hard, that's not a sustainable way to live, because you lose your family eventually. My parents couldn't sustain that, and my dad lost his family, and I was on the verge of losing mine, repeating in my dad's footsteps. And it wasn't like my family was standing at the door ready to leave, but I'm like, I've seen this movie before and I know how it ends. We need to change things up. And so fortunately that happened. And I'm proud to say 2021 comes around. I'm not missing any of Leo's games. So I'm honoring my dad's promise. He's homeschooled, which is something that we it's a popular thing here in the States. He travels with us. I taught him how to negotiate real estate. We have, an Airbnb portfolio, vacation rentals, buy land and other real estate and other businesses. And so I'm bringing my son into it. My son actually has a podcast now. So he's kind of following in dad's footsteps in the entrepreneurial sense. All that time's been brought back to my family. And just to kind of wrap up the intro part, I know I'm kind of going long, but come the current day. So over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been asked by a number of just friends and peers and just various different places in my network. They don't like talk to each other or didn't team up and say, let's all ask George this question. But they were saying, you need to teach people how you're doing this. And I'm like, teach them what? And they're like, this lifestyle that you have, that you're like semi-retired, you're traveling, you're making money, you're with your family. It's like, that doesn't happen very often. And I was like, well, what do I teach them? Like how to travel and this, and it didn't make sense. And I sort of just parked that suggestion until the last, I'd say 7-8 months. This whole idea about buying back time, there's frameworks that you can implement in your business to free you up. Once you're free from that, you now have time to do whatever else you want to do. So I'm a family first, father first guy. So I'm all about, let's bring dad back in the home so that he can make the impact and the presence that he was born to be the father he was born to be. Because when you let iPads and iPhones raise your kids, it's the scariest place. You put them out in the World Wide Web on their own to discover things. They're going to see the things that probably no human should ever see, but somehow kids find that early, like average age of 8. Fortunately, we never let my son do that, but I've seen the statistics. And so the goal is bring father back home, save the family, and then make a generational impact. Because once you got dad home making his impact, I can't help but to go down further generations. So that's the intro. I know I went a little bit long, but wherever you want to unpack there.
Look, I think what you've described is a very clear picture of so many businesses around the world. Okay, so many businesses holding up the ideals, and the org chart that you said you were trapped into. I think that's the badge of honor that a lot of business owners wear. They wear that and thinking that, I make the decisions in my business. When the decision needs to be made, people come to me and it's my choice, it's my way. But that can really be a trap. And that flat structure where everything comes back to you create bottlenecks. And I've seen it so many times in clients that I advise, but I've also seen that issue where, okay, well, why am I spending so much time in my business? Because I've created bottlenecks. Like unfortunately, we've got some bottlenecks in the business. There are things that only can be done by me because I've got the right registration. But there are other processes where I don't need to be involved, but I still keep control of that, which is a danger. But we wear that as in a way, a badge of honor that, hey, everybody comes to me. I make the decisions. It's my business. So you've made it a conscious decision, and you did mention, and the thing I really appreciate here is you mentioned that it took over a year to move from where you were to where you are now. I think a lot of people look for that very quick fix, that instant fix. We seem to be wanting everything instantly these days, but it is a gradual process. What kind of process did you discover? And like, obviously you've mapped out a framework which we can get access to, and we'll put a link in the show notes to it. The buyback time formula. There's a book that you've produced. It's available. The link will be in the show notes. But let's talk about a bit of that strategy and that process. Where do you get started? Because there's so many things you could do.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Easy thing to do is what I call a freedom audit, but to sort of explain what that is to like review the things that you're doing on a consistent basis. So what I tell people is look at your calendar for the past 2 weeks. And as I say that, if you're like the me of 10 years ago, I would have said, well, I have a calendar, but it's not that detailed. Okay. So if it's not that detailed, start now for the next 2 weeks and you'll find out even the next 2 days, but give it some time and track down everything you do, including even like going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, like literally everything that you do. And your eyes will open in the next couple of days as to you're going to be doing some things you should not be doing. But at first, don't even worry about that. Just document what you're doing, document the things, and you'll see that certain things repeat that you continuously do over and over again. And that's like the low hanging fruit of what you can start getting off your plate. And what I tell people is, just start with one thing, get it off your plate, believe that it's possible, and then you will be addicted to doing this to everything you can. And that way your time is focused on the stuff that only you can do as the founder or the CEO or as the higher level or the super duper important person in your business that only you can do that the others might not be able to do.
So it's amazing. I've gone through a similar kind of audit process myself, and it's been quite confronting where you actually spend some of your time. And you look back at it and go, well, why? How did I know I couldn't have spent that much time doing that task? And the reality of it is you did, and that task added no value to what you're doing. And you didn't need to be the person doing it. But I think one of my traps is doing some of those tasks it's comforting because I know I can do it and it's done. And I feel good when I've done it. But the problem is I should be doing something else that's going to add more value.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's important to see all your tasks. And then the next part is to assign a dollar value to those tasks. And then you got to like realize how much is my own time worth and just be honest with yourself. And it's different for everybody. Some people could be $100 an hour. Some people could be $5. Some people could be 1,000, some 10,000. I consider my highest level dollar value at $10,000 an hour. And so, for me, for example, I'm working 60 hours a week and I realize that 40 of those hours are spent on doing $50 an hour or less tasks. I was like, oh my goodness. So essentially I'm spending $2,000 a week. So imagine I hire just full-time 40 hours, forget the 60, that's 40 hours. 40 hours per week at $50 is $2,000. It's like if I value my strategic high level thinking time at $10,000 an hour, I'm already like, oh my gosh, I could have just paid $2,000 and saved all that time. And so assuming that the other 20 hours were spent on high level strategic thinking, but imagine doing that, but also being burned out. Usually it's at the end of the day. So it's low efficiency, high strategic thinking. So imagine now that I'm working less than 30 hours a week because I've gotten rid of all the lower dollar an hour stuff. Now those hours that I think of strategy, I'm clear thinking. I've got less on my plate and it's more effective. And it's almost like a 4x return on that time, if that makes sense.
So putting some dollar values on it, I guess, really crystallizes how much it's costing you to hold on to those tasks that you shouldn't be doing. When you work through this exercise with people, or when people have worked through it and they've fed back to you, what are some of the responses that they've come across? So you mentioned $10,000 an hour task, but for most business owners, what kind of things have they been discovering when they've gone through this audit?
Yeah, I mean, they'll just discover a lot of things that repeat. They're like, yeah, every Monday we do this, and I'm like, okay, every Monday that's what you do. Well, you could just put what's called an SOP, a standard operating procedure, and essentially hand that off to somebody and just be done with it. And there's a proper way to do that. I mean, there's a screen recording video service called Loom, or there's other ones. You just record a Loom video. Here's the process. Get the transcript, put it in ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT, make me an SOP. It'll make it nice and pretty. Put it on a Google Doc with the Loom link, and that's it. Here you go. Here, I'll give you 10 minutes to watch, review it. Let me know if you got any questions. I'm here to help you. Okay, you're good. Good. Please, until the technology changes or vendors change or we're done with that process, I shouldn't hear about it anymore.
Yeah, so that's one very clear example of just not having to repeat that process and show. So when you're creating those kinds of SOPs, those processes, are you looking for somebody else to take ownership of that task or that area?
Yeah, exactly. You are looking to transfer ownership of that task, and that's proper delegation. So remember when I said, I'm here and I got 40 people and everything comes up to me, in my head, had you told me then, hey, you just got to delegate. It's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm delegating all this stuff and it keeps coming back to me. Yeah, well, you're not doing it right. There's this term that I don't know that I coined it, but I call it super delegation. I don't want to claim credit for it. Anyway, it's where you're doing it by transferring ownership at the same time. And that's how you do it, because normally when you assign a task, it's just going to boomerang back to you with questions and how do you do this. But when you assign a task with ownership, you show them what outcome looks like, what success looks like, and you also give them the freedom to improve upon the process. And to speak about that for a second. So imagine if, or I guess me, I think I'm 100% capability at a certain task, like I'm perfect in my own eyes. Somebody just getting to 80% is good enough, right? It's not perfect, but close. That should be good enough to get me out of the way. But I've realized that once I give them ownership and a proper way to do it, and I give them the freedom to do it better if they can, they take that 80%. They're like at 100, 120%, and I'm down here at 100. I don't know. It's kind of, they improve my own process. And it's like, oh my gosh, how arrogant was I to even continue to hold on to that for the reason of I'm the only one that can do this.
Yeah, it's quite confronting sometimes when you do hand over that ownership of that area, that sense of responsibility, and the outcome that then happens is superior to what you were doing. Even though you felt that you were the expert, you were in control. I've had that example happen. So my oldest son works in our business, working particularly on systems, and he takes a very objective look at something and he goes, well, why are you doing that? Why are you asking that? Why are you asking it in that way? You could do this quicker if you just cut out those 3 steps. But I was so used to doing those 3 steps. And he's just said completely, that's just inefficient. Here's a better way. And it's a fresh approach. And I've looked at it and gone, yeah, it is a much better way. So go ahead, take ownership of that and just change everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best when that happens. I mean, maybe the earlier, younger version of me might have been a little like, oh man, that wasn't me that figured it out, hurt, ego, whatever. At this point, at least this point in my career and my life, zero ego. You can do it better. Please have at it. Show me how.
So you've come up with a framework, and it is in the book, which buyback time formula. What are some of the other steps? So you've gone through that audit, and that's going to be, I guess, a really good first pass to go through and say, here are a whole bunch of tasks that need to be, I guess, shift off your calendar and put onto somebody else's. What are some of the next steps that people would take to actually free up more time?
Yeah, so once you do the evaluation, you realize, okay, there's a number of things I'm doing I should not be doing. And of course, I'll still keep doing the things I should be doing. So you're looking at that list of things you shouldn't be doing. There's really only 3 things you can do with that task, or those set of tasks, which is eliminate, automate, or delegate. And so really, like, there's no other option from those 3. And so eliminate, and I'll just give you a quick example for each, like a recurring meeting, for example, or meetings that don't accomplish anything that could have been handled in like a 5-minute email or something. Sometimes I'd sit there through meetings. I'm like, this wasted a whole hour. This could have been just an email update or something. And because I think some people just like to meet for the sake of meeting. And it's like, so we just got to evaluate the importance of that. But that's like low hanging fruit right there. And then automate. Like, for example, there's a number of examples, but the one that comes to mind is like I used to be like spinning a bunch of plates. I'd have emails coming into me from all sorts of different places, invoices and traffic partners and just all kinds of different things. And when I'm manually forwarding emails throughout, there's room for human error, and there's obviously my time that it takes. So there's a time delay of people getting what they need, and again, being the bottleneck. And so I set up rules. It takes a while. I blocked out a couple hours one day in my Gmail, and other tools have similar, similar services. And I just said, okay, every time I have to forward an email, I document exactly like who's it going to and why. And one day I just banged out all the rules, and no more did I have to like be randomly checking for emails that I had to forward because, urgent email needs to go to accounting. This email needs to go to legal. And so you just streamline that. And that's an example of like automating something and saving lots of time too. And again, human error. And then delegate. And we touched on this earlier. I call it super delegation, and it's transferring proper ownership, showing them what the task looks like, not just here you go, and then they come back with questions. Like, once you properly delegate it, it should be to where it doesn't even come back up unless it's like, maybe it's like a quarterly review of the process if you feel like you got to improve it, or just, hey, let's check in and see it. But once you delegate it, it shouldn't be coming back to you. That's kind of my rule.
I think a lot of business owners look at delegation the wrong way. I think we look at delegation is two things I see is that we delegate, but we don't give enough responsibility or enough permission, and we still maintain a very tight control over there. The other one I see, which is delegation without setting a framework or a desired outcome. And I call that abdication, where you don't want to deal with the problem, so you push it to somebody else and hope that they don't stuff it up more than you will.
Yeah, that's a thing.
We have those kinds of issues, but what you're talking about here is a really effective form of delegation there. So we've talked about a few really, I guess, powerful steps that you can take to free back some of your time. I think we've only really just touched the surface of what you can do and how effective you can become. When you've worked with business owners, or when you've got feedback from people who have gone through the book, what kind of results are people achieving when they go through this process?
Yeah, I mean, they're buying back time, just as the title of the book states. They're feeling relief, they're feeling less stress, and also there's a bit of an identity shift that has to happen because, and I know you've touched on it a little bit earlier about just getting stuff done. It's like we're the business owners. We get stuff done. We're the hero to our business, but we're not the hero to our family, or the hero that our family needs us to be. It's like business takes priority over family stuff, and so there's a bit of an identity shift that it's okay to not have to be hustling 24/7 or every waking moment, because that was my thing, the me of 10 years ago. And I describe myself, the me of 10 years ago, cash rich, time poor. My business got all my time. My family got very little time, little to none. And the time they did get was me like burned out and grumpy and like anxious to get back to work, which is not a happy place to be. And so, yeah, I think it's some of that identity shift and realizing, hey, the frameworks work if you do it right, and have trust in the frameworks. Now, that said, there is a season. If you're new and you've got a new business, or you're in your early stages, there's a season of hustle because nobody else is going to do that for you. But I still recommend people have the end in mind and just know that, hey, this is a season of hustle, but I still want to document this stuff properly, because one day as my business grows, we don't want to scale chaos. We want to scale freedom, and frameworks allow you to scale freedom.
Oh, fantastic. We did talk about it. We teased it at the beginning when we talked about the 2-week vacation test. Can you just explain a little bit of what that test is and what are we looking for?
Yeah, I love that. Whenever I do an onboarding call with a client, or you'll see it in the book, is there's this thing called, if you can't take a 2-week absence test without your business falling apart, then it's like you're just like the highest paid employee for your business, assuming you pay yourself. Some people don't even pay themselves that well. But so the goal is, for example, say I'm working with somebody on an onboarding call and I tell them, hey, in 6 months, look at your calendar, give or take a week or two, doesn't have to be perfect, but block out 2 weeks because we're going to be off the grid completely. And they freak out a little bit, like, oh my gosh, I can't take an hour off. How am I going to take off 2 weeks? They freak out too much. I'll let it be a week, but it's still significant time away. And And I tell them, well, that's exactly why we need to do this, because you're freaking out right now. That's like a sign that you really need this. And yeah, and it's like, make the investment, book the hotel, buy the flights, buy the the tickets, the Disney World tickets, wherever this destination is, because it's going to be with your family. And the clock starts now, like today, or like this week, whenever we're like starting officially, like we are working to get yourself out of being the bottleneck, and that's our goal. And that's when we know we really hit transformation. And the last note on that is it's not like we set the 6 months and we work our way there and then we go. There's little mini like rehearsals working up there. So we'll take an evening off, or like an afternoon. Like, we'll stress test the system a little bit so that the business owner has full confidence that they can take that extended time off away. But taking an afternoon off, or an evening, or a half day or something, oh, we saw this email didn't make it, okay, let's patch that up. Or so and so didn't have clear instruction, okay, let's patch that up. What's next? Okay, we're good. Now we're ready for our trip.
Yeah, I love the way of doing those little tests, because a lot of people don't even feel like they can take an afternoon off. And like, if you can't take an afternoon off, if you then come back to one of the first things we talked about is not being able to be there for those non-repeatable moments that really matter with a family. Like, if you can't take time away for the business to go for any time, you're going to miss a lot of those moments. So it's important to get that stress test in place already. Now, George, we talked about how we can do this without sacrificing growth, and we haven't really touched on that directly. We've talked about how we can free back a lot of time, and that's a great outcome for any business owner. But how do we actually continue to grow our business when we're stepping back?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, kind of in my example I mentioned earlier, I was working like 40 hours a week on $50 an hour tasks. And again, once my time was freed of that, I was focusing on primarily what I'd call my zone of genius. And not only that, I'm working on it with full clarity, as opposed to like burned out, kind of the end of the day stuff, assuming I even got to it. Sometimes I probably didn't even get to it. And so my zone of genius is marketing, is strategic relationships, it's revenue generating activities, which I assume every business owner, that should be your zone of genius as well. That's the whole point of starting a business, is to be profitable and to seek ways to be profitable. And I've had clients before that say, well, I'm not so confident in my zone of genius for like strategic, networking or growing my business. And in that sense, I help them kind of think through, okay, who are 50 to 100 key needle movers that you could meet that could help you get your business to the next level? Maybe strategic partners for like referrals, or there's a number of things, or, your ideal clients, and let's go after those. And that's what you use your time to do. But all the stuff that's like $50 or less, or again, if you're a $10,000 an hour person, you shouldn't be doing $100 an hour work. But assuming most people might be kind of in that $500 range or so, maybe your limit's like, okay, I'll do 100, but not anything less. And so find ways to keep revenue coming into the business, and that's what you do. Every business is going to be different, but the commonality is that their strategic time should be for growing the business.
Oh, that's great. Great way to sort of sum everything up there. Yeah, freeing up your time gives you the capacity and I guess the energy to do that strategic work to grow. So I think, if I'm correct, the first place to start really is one, get a copy of the Buyback Time Formula book. That's the first place. The second thing then is to go and do the $10,000 hour filter, and looking at your calendar and say, what should I eliminate? What should I automate or delegate? And then actually delegate the outcomes, not the specific tasks. What else? Is there something I'm missing, or is it that clear?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, at a really high level, I mean, there's little details under kind of some of those bullet points as far as the specific process, but that's it at a high level. You can do that well. You can buy back your time, and then you can give that time back to your family, give that time back to like rebuilding your health. Because if you're like how I was 10 years ago, your health might not be in the best place. Might be like foregoing your fitness and working out, and keeping the mind sharp, and eating right. And I'm not a nutritionist, so you got to do your own research for that. But I recommend, as you get your time back, save some of that for your health.
Absolutely. Look, I think there is so much more that we could talk about on this topic, but we're not going to just leave it there. Get a copy of the book. I'm really excited about this because I love seeing business owners take an opportunity. And George, you've provided a really good framework for every business owner to start. to get started and to make an impact. And that's been, it's a big thing. Like, there's so much stress, so much burnout. We want business owners to run that business with freedom and enjoy doing what they're doing. And this is a great way to sort of get out of that trap of working 70, 80-hour weeks. Look after your health, look after your family, invest in your family, invest in yourself. George, thank you for creating such a great resource and a great framework for us to copy, to imitate, to follow, and benefit from, just as you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, this has been fun.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions, because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes, along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.